I was always told, "Oh, you're stressed. Oh, your belly aches. Don't worry about it. You have a virus." I'm like, "I can't have all these viruses." I'm like, "Come on." I never had answers, and I saw so many GI doctors and doctors across the board that would not give me answers, and I would test for things and nothing really came out.
You're listening to the What the Gut podcast, where busy moms can come for a holistic approach to health and vitality. I'm Allison, your host, a holistic health and wellness coach. In this space, we'll dive into the intricacies of achieving holistic wellness while balancing the demands of daily life as a busy mom. What the Gut is your haven for navigating the challenges that come with juggling numerous tasks while aiming for a healthier, more balanced life. Join me as we uncover practical solutions to common health hurdles, from managing fatigue to understanding all things gut health. Through insightful discussions, actionable insights, and tailored lifestyle strategies, my goal here is to empower you to embrace a vibrant, nourishing life while saying goodbye to being overwhelmed and exhausted. So if you're ready to embark on this transformative journey towards holistic well-being, hit that subscribe button. Get ready to discover the secrets to thriving in motherhood while nurturing your overall wellness. A quick reminder, everything discussed here is for educational and empowering purposes only and is not intended for personalized medical advice. Consult your personal healthcare provider for personalized medical advice. Welcome to What the Gut, where we create our own path to holistic health, one episode at a time. Today on the podcast, I have Jennifer Marcks, a gluten-free health coach, former teacher, and school administrator. Jennifer is a mom of 3 and also has been gluten-free for years. Let's dive in and see just how easy it can be to live gluten-free.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here to talk with you today.
Jennifer, you are a certified gluten-free health coach who helps women ditch the stress of being overwhelmed to really create this sustainable gluten-free lifestyle that works for them. I love that. I'm gluten-free, have been for years now, and love connecting with other women who are too. I know that you've got a story as to what led you to this, and some of your family is gluten-free now as well. So I'd love to have you just tell your story and how you got into living this gluten-free lifestyle.
Sure. Thanks for having me on today. It's great to be here. I love your podcast, everything I've heard so far.
Thank
Yeah. So, my story, isn't it interesting though, when we have an answer that you can trace your story back and see how much further it started than you thought?
Yeah, it is very interesting.
So, yes, I could trace my story back to high school, laying on the bathroom floor holding my belly. In college, I was rushed to the hospital a few times, doubled over in pain, and the doctors just wanted to ask me if I was pregnant since I was a college girl. I'm like, yeah, thank you. No. And then going into my early adulthood, I would have these episodes when I'd be in such intense pain. I'm like, what's going on? I really think it's something I'm eating, but I could not get to the point of what was it? Like, I knew milk always bothered me. So I knew I couldn't have dairy. I could have a certain amount of dairy, and after that, forget it. So
Yeah,
I
that's how
knew
I
that
was
all.
too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I knew that already, but I really couldn't pinpoint what else was really getting to me. And I had this major episode where I was in so much pain and having all kinds of issues going on. Back up before that, I had suffered headaches and neuropathy and canker sores so bad that I would drink wine with friends and not be able to talk because it hurt so bad. And I was always told, "Oh, you're stressed. Oh, your belly aches. Don't worry about it. You have a virus." I'm like, "I can't have all these viruses." I'm like, "Come on." I never had answers. And I saw so many GI doctors and doctors across the board that would not give me answers. And I would test for things and nothing really came out. And
Yeah.
so to me, I felt, okay, this is food, something with food. And still was not getting answers. And finally, I had such a bad episode that I was doubled over in pain, had some other very serious issues going on with bleeding and things like that. Thought, okay, it's time to go to the hospital. And went to the hospital. They could not figure out what was wrong with me and said, "All right, your scan is so bad, we can't even read it." They wanted to go in and do surgery. I'm like, "No, you're not doing surgery on me before we know what's happening. No." And case in point, I left that hospital. All the medication they gave me was probably filled with gluten. So that I was reacting to as well. And then I went home and a month later had a colonoscopy that was so clear that when the doctors looked at it, they're like, this is not the same person. And I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
okay, yeah, so it's not my body, something I'm putting in my body, right?
Yeah.
So I was sent to a dietitian and she's clearly it's gluten. Now, this was 15 years ago. So gluten was not something like today that is talked about or brought
Right.
about in any kind of discussion or sitcom to make fun of it, right?
Yeah.
So what's gluten? And so she's, I don't think you should have gluten or dairy. Let's take those out. And basically, I was told to go to Whole Foods, buy some quinoa and some gluten-free bread, and I'd be on my way. I'm like, yeah, no, like, what?
But
what?
it's not that
What?
simple.
So yeah, so I was a teacher, a researcher, so I just dove into everything and started reading and researching and was learning all about celiac disease and gluten intolerance and where did I land? And I did not ever test for celiac disease, but when I look back at my timeline, I believe that I was already more gluten free than not. So my testing probably would never have come out correct, anyways. But
Right,
as I
because
was
to
reading,
test for celiac, you have to have been eating gluten for it to test,
absolutely.
correct? Yeah,
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 so you definitely want to be eating gluten to test, and if you've already taken it out, you don't wanna eat gluten again, friends. That's your big answer right there. So, as I was researching and studying, and this time I had 2 children, married with 2 children, and my
you've got 4 total, right?
I have 3 altogether now.
3.
As I was reading and researching, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, my son is really small for his age," and I was always really small, so that was not, like, a big indicator to me. I just thought, "Oh, poor kid, he's gonna take after me instead of his dad." He was also behind in his dental, 2 years behind in dental development, and those 2 things are textbook celiac, right? Stunts your
Mhm.
growth and dental. My daughter had belly aches all the time. She was in 3rd grade at the time. Belly aches, bloating. She'd run outside and play. 3rd grader, hello, I taught 3rd grade. She had no energy. She'd play for 5 minutes and have no energy. My 3rd graders were off the walls with energy, right? So I knew something was off, but the doctor would say, "She's stressed." I'm like, "She's in 3rd grade. She's this
Like, how much
happy-go-lucky
stress could
kid."
she have? Yeah.
She's a
Oh my god.
happy-go-lucky kid. She's not stressed. And more things were happening. She started to develop vitiligo down her leg. And the doctors, I don't know why that's happening. And then she started having neurological tics where her arm, she'd talk to you and her arm would fly out. It was a very scary time. We saw a top
Mhm.
neurologist who wanted to put her on steroids and all this medication. I'm like, there's got to be something here.
Yeah, like, but
And
what's causing it?
gluten was our answer. Both of my children tested off the charts for celiac disease and we were moving at the same time. So it was like, okay. So we were thrown into this. I was gluten free almost a year before we figured out my children had celiac. And so I always say, me finding out about gluten and that it was an issue for my body and caused me so much distress over so many years was a blessing because it brought me to my children. No one would have ever put the pieces together that they had celiac disease.
Right. Isn't that crazy? I just think about this all the time and then talking to people, it gives me chills because it's just as
Mhm.
moms, like the things that we go through with our own health, like how it impacts our children. It's crazy. Just
Mhm.
how much pain and everything we go through, but how it's such a blessing in the end because like you said, you wouldn't have known anything except that you've been through this.
Yeah, not at all. And for all of us, like all of my symptoms went away. You have the occasional glutening because that's life and that does happen. But my children who are now in college, my daughter's in grad school, my son's a senior in college. So they went from 1st and 3rd grade to this. And my son, he towers over me. That first year going gluten free, he grew 4 inches. And the doctor's, wow, that is so textbook. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So how old was he when he went gluten free?
1st grade.
First grade.
So he was,
Okay.
yeah, 6, 7 years old.
So what was that like? Because I've got 3 kids. Mine are
Mm.
all young. They are almost 10, 8, and 4. And
Aw.
if it were up to me, yes, like we would all be gluten free. And I will say I'm gluten free. So I don't ever buy stuff like that at the house, but my husband does eat bread. And
Mhm.
so they're exposed to it too when they go to grandparents and exchange lunches at school. How did you do that? Like, how did you get a first grader to go gluten free?
So the 2 of them, my 2 older children are all 3 of my children are amazing, but of course, I have to say that as a mom. But
Yeah.
I sat them down and I said, "Okay, so you've seen what I've gone through. because they watched me make the transition, and I'd be
That's
eating a
true.
different dinner from them because at the time I didn't realize, yes, I can feed everybody gluten-free and it's not going to kill anybody, right? It's going to
Right.
be a healthier way to eat when we're doing that and inserting that in the right manner. And we shouldn't be short order cooks where we're making something different for everybody in the family. That's my take, anyways. But they
Yeah.
watched me, so they'd always be like, "Mommy, why are you eating that pasta instead of ours? Can I taste it? What does it
Yeah.
taste like?" So they were like my biggest cheerleaders because they wanted me to be healthy again. They wanted me to have that energy to play with them again instead of
They
being
were old enough to recognize that.
sick.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I sat them down and said, "Okay, you saw how I had to change what I ate, and it brought me back my health." I said, "For the two of you, we won't have to take medication every day. You aren't going to have needles." They had some friends with diabetes, so they saw them.
Yeah.
So I said, "You're not going to need that. We're not going to have to go to the hospital for surgery, God
Right.
forbid."
Yeah.
Yeah, overall, we could control this by changing our food. And they were both like, "Okay."
Yeah. To me, that would be enough to convince me. That's
And they
awesome.
felt better. And it was funny because, like, I was a huge sweet eater, like a chocoholic for sure. I love my cookies and donuts and all that. And my son used to always push those away. And then when you look back, it's like, yeah, because when he ate that, he had a bellyache and he didn't realize to connect that. So when you're looking at your kids and okay, what are they pushing away? What do they not want to eat? It might not be that, oh, they just don't like that. It might be that their body is reacting to it when they're eating it. So their body instinctively knows that and pushes it away so they don't eat it. Paying attention is really important.
Yeah. Gosh, that's just so interesting. I convince my kids, I try to convince them to go gluten free. If we ever do buy pasta and stuff, we do typically buy gluten free, but
Hmm.
we try not to even buy that a lot though. But of course, if mom's out of town, they're like, Dad, let's go to the donut shop.
For sure.
And then mom gets home. I'm like, nope, mom's home. We're not doing that. It's a hard battle sometimes. But I want to ask you, what other benefits did you see either in yourself or with your kids of going gluten free?
Oh my gosh, so many benefits. And can I add also that like when my third child was born, because he came 9 and 11 years younger than my first two. And so we say he was born into the gluten free lifestyle. And at
Yeah.
first, the doctors, let's just, your whole house is gluten free. My husband does eat gluten, but mostly I do the cooking. So he eats everything I make. That's
Yeah.
gluten free, dairy free, and corn free. So we are all of that. So when Sam was born into it, they're like, keep him gluten free as you're nursing and everything else, and we'll see how it goes. And then when he turned 18 months, the doctor's like, all right, we need to feed him gluten now. And I was like, what? He switched from this happy go lucky, sleeping well, eating, pooping well baby to absolute
Just,
opposite.
yeah.
A
God,
baby that cried, that had belly aches, that wasn't pooping. Everything changed. Behavior, sleep,
that's
diaper,
crazy.
everything changed. And the doctor wanted me to do this for weeks at first, like a few months. I think we may have lasted 3 weeks, if that. I was like, I cannot do this. This is killing him. This is such a different
Yeah.
kid. And she's like, yeah, mama instincts. Let's see. No, get him off of that now.
Yeah.
And right back to gluten free. And he was fine again. Yeah, paying attention, my friends, is so key. First of all, the biggest benefit is you now know what's bothering you.
Yes.
You can now move forward and do something about it because that is the biggest hurdle. Nobody thinks about gluten when you go to the doctor and you have a bellyache or you have these rashes. And the big misconception is it's not just about the belly, right?
What happens in the gut does not stay in the gut. I like to
Yes.
say that.
Yeah, absolutely. But the gut is where it's all happening. So
Hmm.
even though it is in your gut, people will come to me and say, I don't have any belly issues. My belly doesn't hurt. I'm not running to the bathroom. I'm not constipated. So it can't be gluten. But gluten is still affecting your gut, which is then causing your rashes and your headache and your neuropathy and your canker sores and all the other things that are happening. So
Yeah.
when you do go gluten free, all that goes away. I still remember waking up and getting dressed, and I put on my jeans and they zipped. And when it started my day, I was like, whoa, my belly is flat. My belly does not look like I'm
Yeah.
36 months pregnant. I have energy today. What is that all about?
Yeah.
And
It's like putting glasses on for the first time. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. No, I can totally relate because I had the debilitating stomach pain too, just like you were describing. And I went to the doctor, I had all the tests. Now, I had tried, like, for the most part, I was gluten-free. I hadn't narrowed it down that, like, gluten I think for me, there
Mhm.
were so many different factors, but I was becoming gluten-free at that time, and I remember going to the GI doctor, and they did the stomach biopsy, they did all the scans, and they wanted to test for celiac, but she was like, "You're gonna have to eat gluten to do that," and I was like, "I don't think you understand. I can't." I literally was in so much stomach pain. I was just praying to the Lord. I was like, "Just take me now because this is miserable." I was in so much pain. It was worse than labor pains, and I had natural
Yes,
childbirth.
yes,
And I was
yes.
like, "This is for the birds." And so when she was like, "You have to eat gluten again to do this," I was like, "That's the stupidest medical advice I've ever heard." And I was like, "Okay, bye." I think they did
Mhm.
still test for it and it was negative, but I wasn't eating gluten. But either
Exactly.
way, I remember they told me, "Your stomach is severely inflamed." And I was like, "That's why I'm here." I know that. But
Yes,
literally
it's
that
not
was like
working.
all they told me.
Yeah.
Yeah, my skin was terrible, my brain
Mhm.
fog. It's
Mm.
wild how many body systems that gluten affects. It's crazy.
Thinking clearer, not having a headache every day, no more canker sores. That people were starting to try to convince me, "Oh, you're eating too many tomatoes," or "You must be eating too many oranges." I'm like, "What? No." And I haven't had any canker sores since going gluten-free, like, ever.
Mhm.
And just the energy that came back, just amazing. For my children, my son grew 4 inches in the first year. His teeth are
Yeah,
fine. My daughter had her energy back. Her neurological tics went away. Her
which is
vitiligo
wild.
stopped in its tracks and
I
has
mean,
faded, so you don't even see it now.
but you just think about, especially like grade school kids, how many are being diagnosed with certain behavioral disorders and things like that these days. It's more and more. And I think there's so much we could go into with that. But I
Mhm.
think one contributor for sure could be gluten, right?
Like,
One contributor to it, definitely not the only
yes.
thing, but
Yeah.
it's wild because I remember every day going to school, just feeling terrible, wanting to go home, begging my dad to take me back home. When I did come home from school, even in high school, I would take a nap every single day. And to me, this was all I knew. Even as a
Yeah.
baby, I was a fussy baby. Even in
Wow.
elementary school, I had to lay my head on the table after lunch to be in the fetal position. I thought that was completely normal, and until I was 30. I'm so glad that I figured this out now as a young mom so I can actually be there for my kids. It breaks my
Mhm.
heart to think about if I hadn't done that, if I had not gone gluten-free and changed a bunch of other factors in my life. It's I was just floating around. I wasn't even, like,
Mhm.
living.
Mhm.
It's
And
crazy.
I love how you just said you didn't realize that you can eat and feel good. Like we thought that was normal. I did too. You think,
Mhm.
oh, we eat and we get sick. That becomes your normal. That
Yeah,
becomes what you expect. So you don't stop to correct it because you're
right,
so used to, I'm going out to eat. Oh, I'm going to go home and be in the bathroom for the next 2 hours. Why don't we
right.
do something about that? No, I don't have any problems.
Or it's like you said, like all the canker sores. A lot of times people, if they have chronic canker sores, they might go to the doctor and mention it and get some kind of prescription or something. But okay, but what's causing that? Like
Yeah.
you shouldn't just adapt to that
Right.
and settle.
It is the gut, my friends. It is the gut, which is why we're here
Yes.
talking about this. And you talked about your intestines being inflamed. Yes, we're at the doctor because they're inflamed, because they're causing all kinds of issues. When my children were tested, I was told they were allergic to 35 different foods. I'm like, okay, no, that is leaky gut.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother topic to get into. But that's when your gut is so messed up. And yes, first steps, friend, get rid of gluten.
Yeah.
And just that one step made such an improvement in our lives
Mhm.
that it just blew me away.
And I think too, when I was figuring, it sounds like you too, like whenever you were going through your own health struggles, is we didn't have guidance from anybody. Like a
No.
lot of providers just don't know all of this information, or at least even a few years ago, it wasn't as accessible. And I was doing all my own research. I remember I did take a food sensitivity test. I found one online. I took it and literally like over half the page, it was like, I can't have
Mhm.
it. I was
Mhm.
like, okay. I remember I
Mhm.
eliminated all of that and nothing helped. Like I actually got worse because
Mhm.
I didn't have a plan, right?
Right.
While I was taking away those foods, I also wasn't working on healing my gut or building it back up because I didn't
Mhm.
know to do that. I didn't know what I was doing.
And so just if you're told that you're allergic to all of these things, I don't want to say you're probably not, but there's different types of
Right.
allergies. And that reminds me too, I always was told I was allergic to cats. And I never had
Mhm.
cats growing up. My aunt did. I'd go to her house, I'd like break out, not necessarily in hives, but I'd have to take some kind of antihistamine. My throat would swell. It was pretty bad, uncomfortable. My daughter, it was when my oldest daughter was like 5 or so. So this was 4 or 5 years ago. And I went to the allergist and I wanted to get tested for cats because I really wanted a cat. And my arm, they just did the skin prick test. My arm like blew up and she's like, I'm sorry, you're going to be highly allergic. I was like, okay, whatever. And that was like in the transition of me like really working on my gut. Then last year, my children wanted cats. I have 3 kids. So we had to get 3 cats. And I was like,
Oh,
okay,
wow.
they'll just be outside cats. I can't do that. Yeah. I've never had cats before. I'm afraid if they go outside, they'll run away. I don't know how to keep a cat in the yard. So they
Mhm,
ended up
right.
staying inside. And now I have 3 cats and I'm fine. I don't itch. I don't break out. And it blows my mind because even being around one cat when I was growing up, I couldn't do it. And that's a cat. That's not food, but that blows my mind.
It all
I
goes
mean,
back to your gut. Yes, it's
yeah.
not just food, it is our environment. All the things around us, the chemicals, the mold, air pollution, that all can affect our gut and throw it off as well, which makes it so hard to diagnose the right thing, right?
Yeah. Now, let me ask you, how do you approach people that really just have this deprivation mindset and are like, oh my goodness, I could never get rid of gluten. What would I eat? I don't know what I would eat.
Yeah, this is like my favorite topic because when I went gluten free, oh, did I fall into the deprivation mindset big time. Like I mentioned earlier, I was a chocoholic. I ate everything. And that is one of the reasons why my gut was so bad because I grew up eating crud. I
Yeah.
ate a lot of junk food, a lot of chocolate, and not the good chocolate that I know to eat today.
Yeah.
Um,
There's good chocolate and bad. And yeah, there's
yeah,
different
the
chocolate.
chocolate
Yeah.
you don't wanna eat. You have to read your labels, friends. But
Yeah.
yes, absolutely, and that deprivation mindset, I was like, "Oh my god, I'm never gonna have chocolate again." And I was like, "What?" And I searched high and low. I'm like, "I have to find a gluten-free chocolate. It has to be dairy-free too. Oh my goodness." And I found one, and I was just like, "Oh," and I could breathe. And I was like, why is this such a big deal? Because when you're told to go gluten free, you think immediately you have nothing left to eat. I eat gluten all day. There's nothing left to eat. What am I going to eat? And you fall into that huge deprivation mindset. So I always tell my clients whether it is a healthy treat or a recipe or not, find it in gluten free form, your favorite food. Because when you do, it's going to tell your mind, oh my gosh, I don't have to give up everything. And I'm not telling them, okay, eat your Snickers bars all day long. Snickers are not gluten free, but if you find your chocolate that's gluten free, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that you can still have that when you want it. And I personally believe it's all about balance. We're not giving up everything. It has to be gluten free, friends. You have to give that up. But
There's a lot of stuff that is
oh,
gluten free.
yes, and today, oh my gosh, 15 years ago, gluten-free food was terrible, and we were convincing ourselves it tasted good. And you'd asked me previously, how did I get my kids to do this? They would come home and say, "Oh, mom, Jimmy had this at lunch. Can we make it gluten-free?" Sure. "Oh, so and so had this today. Can you make it gluten-free?" Sure. And so I saw through their eyes, they just didn't want to be different from their friends. So take those favorite recipes, take those foods that you don't want to miss out on and make them gluten free.
Yeah.
And you have to start where you are and then you branch out and you add in more vegetables and you add in more fruits and you add in more whole foods. But you have to start where you are to show your mind and your body that I do have something left to eat and it's something
Yeah.
that I enjoy.
Yeah, I agree. I love it. Now, Jennifer, your podcast, Empowering Your Gluten Free Growth. I love how most of your episodes are short and very, I want to say like listener friendly to people who, whether you are gluten free or are thinking about going gluten free, like the steps are so simple and they're very straightforward. And if
Oh,
anybody out here is listening, y'all need to go check out that podcast, Empowering Your Gluten Free Growth, because I really enjoyed it, and I've been gluten-free for years, but I'm like, "Okay, yeah, like, I'm gonna keep doing this." Yeah, I've enjoyed listening to that as well, but If somebody is wanting to go gluten-free though, we did talk about it, but are there certain steps that you do take with people that you say, "Okay, let's lay out a plan. If you wanna go gluten-free, this is how I would do it."
Yeah, absolutely. First, you have to know what gluten is because, go gluten free. And they're like, what's gluten?
Right.
We think it's wheat. But here's the misconception is wheat free. If something says wheat free, that doesn't mean it's gluten free. Okay, so you have to really be careful of that. So learning wheat, barley, and rye are your top things you really have to give up. If you're just starting, I always say if you're buying anything that's packaged, then you want to make sure it is certified gluten free. And again, it's like we just said, I can't take somebody, even myself looking back, like I thought I ate pretty healthily at the time. Like I had gotten away from some of that horrible chocolate and junk food I was eating. By the time I was a mom, I was feeding my children healthy foods. We were cooking a lot. So I thought I was healthy. But then as you're learning more and more about gluten and reading labels, it really opens your eyes to
Oh,
see what
yeah.
other things are in your food that you really don't know. So, one, you need to learn gluten. You need to learn what gluten is and where to find it. And two, reading labels because seeing what's in your food is so incredibly mind blowing.
Yeah.
Why are all these extra ingredients in this food where it needs only one ingredient?
I know. I try to teach my kids that a lot, reading the labels.
Yes, my children know when we find something new that's gluten free and they pick it up off the shelf, if it has more than 5 or 6 ingredients that are not all whole foods, they put it back. They're like, oh, nope, we're not going to buy that one. And they shop that way now too, which is very eye opening as young adults. But so we start with what is gluten. We get into creating easy gluten free meals because that's the next step. Okay, we know learning what foods you can eat that are safe to eat. But okay, I have to make dinner. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to eat. How do I do this? Teaching simple, easy recipes. If you love spaghetti and meatballs, make spaghetti and meatballs that are gluten free. And
Right.
learning those substitutes, we usually make meatballs with breadcrumbs. We're not going to use breadcrumbs. You can use gluten free breadcrumbs if you want to, but gluten free bread is not so fabulous.
You still
That's
have to read the label.
another whole discussion there.
Yeah.
But we use oats in our gluten-free meatballs. But oats are very controversial in the gluten-free world because they're highly cross-contaminated and in the way that they're processed and grown. You're just learning all those ins and outs of what to stay away from at the beginning and what to add in. And then getting to know your grocery stores and where are you going to find your gluten-free food? Because if you don't know where to find it, you're not going to be eating, right?
Right.
And so getting in your stores and paying attention and teaching them to look, let's look outside of all those aisles. There are some good things in there that you can eat, but let's look at the whole foods. What are you already eating? What can you add in? So if someone, like I was starting to say myself, where I was eating pretty healthy, so I was eating a balance, lots of whole foods with some processed foods. But when you have someone come to you who's eating all processed foods and eating out all the time, you can't start them with smoothies and quinoa.
Right.
That doesn't work. See, I believe you start where you are and then we branch out because this is not a diet we're going to be on for a week or a month. And yes, we have to heal our gut. We have to get gluten out and we have to add in all the beneficial nutrients and minerals your body needs by adding in those whole foods. But you have to do it in steps.
It's not gonna be sustainable unless you do it.
No, no.
Yeah.
You'll find that rare client who's ready to just dive in and be like, all right, I'm all whole foods, I'm all this. But I will tell you that that is not the norm of the
Yeah.
people that I've spoken to or talked to. And when you push them too hard to go all whole foods and go all into, all right, let's start a smoothie and let's make quinoa and let's do all, they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. And they push back
Yeah.
and they start telling themselves, this is too hard. I'm just going to eat gluten today and it backfires. So you have to take your baby steps, but each step, small steps, give you such big rewards that you keep taking those steps. You build your foundation. What is
Mhm.
gluten? Reading labels, finding your food, knowing hidden gluten. That's a huge one because we don't know gluten's hidden in soy sauce.
Yeah.
Gluten is cross contaminated over here. Buying the prepackaged foods at the grocery store. No, that's where all the hidden gluten is. So, learning those little tips, that foundation, and then you take your foundation and then you build, I got to set up my home. Do I want it to be 100% gluten free or not? how am I going to eat out? How am I going to eat at my friend's house? How am I going to have Christmas this year or Hanukkah or whatever you're celebrating? And just going through all the steps.
Yeah. And I think it's totally doable, but it makes you more mindful of what you're doing and what you're eating, which also has its benefits. So
Mhm.
it's all around a great way to transition to that. Jennifer, this has been so much fun. I love it. I love talking about gluten-free stuff. I know that you do have Instagram and it's at Marks Jennifer. But then is there anywhere else that our listeners can find you? I know you've got the podcast as well.
Yes, definitely hop over to the podcast because we share so much great information. I have some amazing interviews coming up that are just loaded with, oh my gosh, so great. And over at my website, which is glutenfreemarksthespot.com, and Marks
Okay.
is my last name, so it's Marcks. So glutenfreemarksthespot.com. I have lots of really yummy and delicious recipes, lots of blog posts with it's just full of information about living gluten-free, and you can find lots of good freebies over there. My gluten-free starter guide, hidden gluten guide, and we'll learn about my programs and how I work with clients.
Awesome. Yeah, this has been so fun, Jennifer. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being a part of my journey on What the Gut podcast. For a deeper dive into today's topics, head over to allisonandwellness.com/whatthegut or find the detailed show notes linked below. Hey, and don't miss out on future episodes. Hit that subscribe button, and if you love this one, please leave me a review. Let's keep the conversation going over on Instagram. Connect with me and stay updated and engaged with my awesome community. Plus, share these valuable insights with your tribe. They deserve to feel as amazing as you do. You can find me at Allison_and_wellness on Instagram. Your support means the world to me. I'm looking forward to our next awesome chat. But until then, stay curious, don't drink too much coffee, keep the vibrant energy flowing, and take care of your gut. Catch you real soon. Oh, and hey, if you're ready to dive deeper into personalized wellness, check out my one-on-one health coaching program at allisonandwellness.com. Let's make your journey to holistic health truly transformative.
Hey there, it's Allison. And if you're anything like me, coffee is a non-negotiable part of your day. But did you know that most coffee is loaded with mold, toxins, and pesticides that could be messing up your gut and hormones? Yeah, no thanks. That's why I only drink Purity coffee. It's organic, tested for toxins, and it's packed with antioxidants that actually support your health instead of wrecking it. It's smooth, delicious, and best of all, it does not leave me feeling jittery or bloated. So if you're ready to upgrade your coffee game and support your gut at the same time, grab a bag of Purity coffee today. Your body will thank you. Oh, and because you are part of the What the Gut family, I've got a special link just for you. Just head to puritycoffee.com and use code AllisonGetsWell for 20% off your first order. Cheers to coffee that loves you back. Hey friend, let's talk about something real. Bloating, stomach pain, and fatigue. You do not have to live like this. I know because I was there too. I was frustrated, exhausted, and trying everything, but still felt miserable. And that's exactly why I created my Get Well one-on-one gut health coaching program to help women like you finally get to the root cause of your symptoms, heal your gut, and feel like yourself again. No more guessing, no more Band-Aid fixes, just real, sustainable solutions tailored to your body. So if you're ready to ditch the bloating, boost your energy, and actually enjoy food without discomfort, let's do this together. Head to AllisonGetsWell.com or reach out to me on Instagram at AllisonGetsWell to learn more and apply today. Because you deserve to feel good in your body every single day.